Hi, welcome everyone to our premiere episode of Breaking Barriers Now. I am so truly grateful for everything that is happening with this podcast and what is going to happen in the future. I'm also grateful for the person that I have on today. She has definitely been a blessing to my life, and I don't say that lightly. She and I crossed paths we thought it was going to be for one reason, and it ended up being a little bit more. But I always say when God's involved, it's always going to be more and bigger. But yeah, so anyway, this is Lindsay Wilson. She hails from South Florida right now, and her story is just truly amazing. When I heard it for the first time, I said, "Oh, we got to share this," and it's led her to her passion and what she does today. So, Lindsay, welcome. Thank you
Hi,
for
thank you for
being
having me
here.
today.
Yeah,
I'm so
yeah, for
excited to be
sure.
here.
For sure. I'm so glad that you were able to come on and be able to, share the story of how you became where you are, how you became this person that you are today. But let's start with a little bit about, where you're from and a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. It's been, I think, probably 3 years since I've officially shared my story, and it's been really interesting to see how over the years my perspective and my truths around my own story have changed as I've grown and changed as well. So that's been
Yeah.
a neat process. A lot of people think I grew up military because we moved all the time. Um, I am originally from Colorado. We moved briefly to Louisiana for a few years, back to Colorado, down to Florida, where I met my then husband, and we went Florida, Georgia, Washington, Hawaii, Tennessee. So from a little bit of
My goodness.
everywhere. um, the longest place I'd ever lived anywhere is 7 years, and that was in Tennessee. And so I've recently relocated down back to Florida where it's warm and it's a little bit easier on my body as I get older.
Yes. Yes.
I see why people come down here to retire. I'm 42. I'm like, I'm in.
Yep.
You guys have the
That's
right
why
idea.
I'm down here too.
Yep. Yep. So let's see a little bit about my childhood. Of course, hindsight's 2020, and it's always interesting to reflect on where my childhood, like where I was at in my childhood, and how all of that subsequently led to where I'm at today.
Oh yeah.
Um, I guess it started, I guess, when I was 9, and I was diagnosed with a medical condition that was going to put some pretty heavy restrictions on what I could do physically.
Mm.
And that's what started a lifelong journey of learning what I couldn't do, or being told what you can't do. Part of the diagnosis is I have about my collagen in my body is about 50% weaker than everybody else's. So
Mm.
very flexible with ligaments and tendons, not a lot of cushioning in the cartilage. So there's a lot of bone on bone.
Mm.
Um, and there's a lot more to it. I don't get into the whole diagnoses and everything just because it was a story that I was so attached to for so long. It came with so many you can't. You can't play contact sports. You can't get your heart rate up. There are back issues that came with it. And so basically the doctors were like, the only thing you can ever do is walk or bowl.
And this
Um,
was as a
that,
kid? This is when you were told that as a kid? How
Mhm.
old? You said 9?
Yeah, 9, 10. Yeah, I was diagnosed at 9. And
Wow.
yeah. And so I was never allowed to play sports. I mean, all my friends were jealous of me because I never had to dress out for gym.
Mhm.
And while it made like it was a short-term gain, it was a long-term loss because it was a way for me to learn how to be a team player and how to develop relationships. And most of the time I was spent on the sidelines, like just
Mm.
doing whatever on the bench. And I was 11 and I hit 6 feet tall, which, which I don't know
Wow.
how many of you know 11-year-olds, but when you're 6 feet tall at 11, awkward doesn't begin to describe it. And then
My
being
goodness.
like not being able to be physically active, there was no muscle tone. And so I was just like a drunk giraffe, just knees and elbows all over the place.
I'm trying
And
not
when
to
I
laugh
was,
at this, the way you said that. Like I'm just picturing a drunk giraffe, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, just like falling down, like, that meme where it's like, Frank, get up. So I was like, Frank the giraffe, like, get up. And so I just found unhealthy ways to spend my time, which was, I was always the new kid in school. And it led to desperately, as a, eventually 6'1" teenage girl living in a new town in high school, with not a lot of social skills and older brothers who were gone and left to college. You're desperate to fit in.
Mhm.
And so I started partying like it was nobody's business. A lot of drinking. It was mostly drinking, just a lot of drinking. And then at 15, 16, I noticed my hands, like my body always hurt. My body always hurt. And it always seemed to hurt more than maybe what it should medically. And so at 17, my knuckles would swell to a point I couldn't open jars. Turning keys was
Oh my
hard.
goodness.
My mom, of course, was taking me to the doctors. I was always at the doctor, at least every 6 months, if not every 3. I was always at the doctor, but I was never like what you would say sick. It was just always something wrong. And so they told me that I had arthritis and the beginnings of rheumatoid arthritis about 17, 18 years old. And we started the medication route. All of the prescription medications they use for arthritis, all of the over-the-counter medication, anti-inflammatories, NSAIDs, which led to an ulcer in my stomach, which led to more medication. And at 17, on my first day of college, I got into a pretty solid car accident and fractured my L3 and L4. I try to be careful when I say I've broken my back because I was never in traction. I never had surgery. I never had to relearn to walk. And I don't want to take away from the people who have broken their back and had spinal cord injuries.
Right.
But I did have a hairline fracture in my L3 and L4, and it squished 2 of my vertebrae. That was my first day of college. So I missed.
Oh my gosh.
I missed my first day of college. It was a pretty horrible accident. We were hit 7 to 8 times by oncoming cars going about 80 miles an hour in the pouring rain.
Wow.
And so I started college at 16 in community college. I finished college 4 months after I turned 21. Didn't really know, got a degree in business because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a baby. Like I don't.
How did you get, okay, so let's backtrack. How did you get to college at 16?
Well, I wanted out, right? Like every rebellious teenage girl who doesn't get along with her mom, like I wanted out. Just wanted out. And so I found that they had a thing called dual enrollment in high school.
Okay.
College classes. And I took as many as I could, where I basically got my first year of college done before I graduated high school.
Okay. They do that a lot now, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. No, I wasn't one of those super smart kids that like applied to Yale and got in at 16. I was just desperate.
I mean, you could be.
I could be, but for some reason I was in a super big hurry to pay my own bills.
Yeah. Imagine that. What we don't know.
What we don't know. I know. And so I graduated college, ended up meeting my husband in Tampa, got married super young. We were out on a wave runner one day and I hit a rogue wave and got thrown up in the air about 50 feet and came back down and landed flat on my back. And sunk down. Like it took everybody like my mom said it was the worst waiting for me to see if I'd come back up. So it refractured the same spots, the L3 and the L4. And this time it just pressed down on a disc where the disc they're not quite sure where it went, but it disintegrated. And so there's a blank space, there's a missing disc. And so I had another back injury. And was still being told, like, now you really can't do anything. So now that I've suffered the second back injury, I don't know who I am as a woman. And I got married. I'm lost in this marriage. My body hurts so bad all the time. The drinking continued, but now we're adding prescription pills to it, pain pills. At one point, the doctor in Georgia who has since lost his license, but at one point had me on over 1,000 pain pills a month.
Wow.
between Oxycontin, Vicodin, and Percocet were the prescription pills. Plus I was getting fentanyl patches and lollipops, and I was drinking
At
on
the
top of
same time?
it at
Jesus.
the same time. So there's 2 years that were just kind of a blur. Um, and that road, it got worse before it got better, to be honest. Like
Yeah, it usually does.
it's a very slippery slope, especially when you live the kind of life that I was leading, where I was married to a very successful civil engineer and I was in school getting my master's degree in elementary education. And we lived this beautiful white collar life where, for all intents and like, it looked perfect on the outside.
On the
Um,
outside.
on the outside. And then we tried for 2 years. We went through 2 years of IVF, intense in vitro fertilization to
Wow.
try and get pregnant, which I never was successful in getting pregnant. And we chose adoption, which I always wanted to do. I was never one of those women that craved getting pregnant. To me, I think it looks awful. Like, I think it's a beautiful process. I think it is incredible, but what women's bodies can do. I just
Yes.
never had the desire to like do that. And I think, coming from a blended family, I have 2 older brothers that have a different father. But I never really put much stock in blood. Like, my goal
Yeah.
was to be a mom, and
Yeah.
kids are kids and humans are humans. Like, we all need love. And I just wasn't attached to any of that. And so
Right.
she chose us at 5.5 months and was there through the whole thing. And it wasn't until my son was about 3.5 where there came a breaking point. We lived in Hawaii. We had a beautiful townhouse on the 10th hole of a golf course across the street from the beach. I mean, I could see dolphins and turtles every morning from our bedroom window. And I was miserable. Like, I didn't have to work. My husband worked all the time. We literally lived in paradise. We went surfing every morning, and I couldn't have been more miserable. I had such an empty hole in my soul. I'm drinking all the time. I'm in so much physical pain that it broke after we moved from something broke in Hawaii that was rectified in Tennessee, where I realized it was time to stop drinking. It was time to stop taking all these pills. I wasn't happy in my marriage.
Right.
And so we went through an amicable divorce after about 11.5 years of marriage. He went through, I'm a rehab baby. I went to rehab for 60 days and found that it really wasn't about the alcohol and the drugs. I don't identify as an alcoholic. I don't identify as a recovered alcoholic. I don't drink anymore. It's just not part of my
Yeah.
story. I know that there are people that would go to the mat with me about that, but I'm very careful of the stories that I identify with, because I think those things that we identify with is what keeps that pain alive.
Yes.
And
I
so
agree.
identifying as the girl who's had 2 severe back injuries, identifying as the girl, my father died at 10. And so I had the dead dad story that I latched onto for a long time. And then I became very attached to the alcoholic pill junkie story, because it was just another excuse. My story became excuses for me to not do better.
Right.
And when I got sober, I stumbled upon something called radical responsibility. And it was really embracing the whole, it's not my fault what happened to me, but at some point it becomes my responsibility on how I move forward with that. And really learning that none of what other people do has anything to do with me. It's not,
Right.
and learning to separate what's mine and what's yours. And not taking on other people's judgments and thoughts and diagnoses as my own.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I got sober. I call it my Jesus years, 33, 34, and got sober, got divorced, moved out on my own. It was the very first time I'd ever lived completely by myself. Like, I'd always had roommates or a boyfriend or a husband or my mom, but I had never had a dwelling that was all mine. So I'm growing up in public at 34 years old, figuring out how to, Why is the car stalling out? When's the last time you changed your oil?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I forgot I have to do that. Cause that was all the
Oh
kinds of stuff
wow,
that you
yeah.
did, right?
Oh
Paying the
man.
car insurance, taking out the trash. And it's not that I'm not capable, like I'm a very smart woman, but it was just things that weren't programmed in me to do. Like
Right.
when the lights would get shut, when the electricity got shut off in the apartment, it wasn't because I was broke. I just forgot to
You
pay the
forgot to.
bill.
I think we've all been there. I'm pretty sure I've done that in the past.
And so I was a special education teacher when I got divorced. I went back to work as a teacher. And the last 2 years of that career broke me. I worked at one of the worst inner city schools in Tennessee, and the deprivation that I saw those babies in was a lot. And so I got to the point where I was still in a ton of pain in my body, just miserable. Was leaving school early because I didn't like being told what to do. I don't agree or like the whole institution, like the whole public school institution as
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And I realized I was forcing myself to be in these situations that I didn't want to be in. And I needed some sort of control in my life. And mind you, like I was done drinking, but I'm still taking all the medications, not the pain not the narcotics, but the OTCs for the pain. So lots of Aleve, lots of ibuprofen, lots of Tylenol. And I didn't like the way that I looked. And so I was like, you know what? And I was single and was convinced that I didn't have a man because of the way that I looked. And
Wow.
was in and felt like I had nothing, no control over my body, no control over my life. And so I was just scrolling on Facebook one day and I saw this woman and I was like, oh, I wish my arms looked like hers. And she had these beautiful shoulders, and I reached out to her anyways. She ended up being my first coach. Her name is Megan Self. And when she got a hold of me, she asked me what I was eating. And as a teacher, I ate like trash. I ate Greek vanilla yogurt by the big tub because it had protein.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Nature Valley granola because I was told that I needed the fiber.
Been there. Yep.
Cheesy tortillas, which I knew were terrible for me, but I love cheese and salt, and it was fast and easy, and I don't like to cook. And Diet Coke and maybe the occasional banana, and that's about what I ate.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
I mean, so much caffeine. And in fact, the first time we met her, I used to carry around bacon for snack, like bacon in my purse. And because I was still very much into my sugar addiction, I had a bag of dark chocolate chips and a bag of bacon in my purse the first time we met her.
Oh, wow.
So I ate terribly. And she asked me, she goes, okay, she goes, your diet, we got to take care of this. She goes, we're cutting out all dairy and sugar. Well, I panicked. And
I bet.
I was like, no, we're not. Like, that's how I survive as a human, on dairy and on sugar. And so she goes, okay, she goes, you can pick one. And I was like, okay. I was like, let's pick dairy. I was like, there goes like a third of my meal plan, but we're taking out dairy. And I think it became one of the most, it sounds so dumb, it became one of the most pivotal moments of my life, because 4 days after not eating dairy, my knuckles that would literally point to a triangle and be bright red subsided. My hand, and I remember I went to go open a bottle of water and I did it, and the first thing I heard in my head was, that didn't hurt. And I couldn't believe I was opening a bottle of water at 37 for the first time and it didn't hurt. And I didn't realize the level of pain that I was living in became my new normal. It's sort of like when alcoholics say how they never get hungover.
Right.
They're just hungover around the clock. They forgot what it feels like to be sober.
Right.
And it was the same thing for me with pain. Like, I forgot what it felt like to not be in pain. And so when she was very kind of nonchalant, she's like, oh, she's like, you have an inflammatory reaction to dairy. I lost it. I said, you have no idea what I've been through, because nobody told me to quit eating fucking cheese. Like, sorry, like I just.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I got so angry and so excited all at the same time. And it really started the whole ball rolling of what else have they told me
Yeah.
that I've put a limitation on myself and that just isn't true. I mean, they told me, Lindsay, you can't work out. My life was a string of what I couldn't do. You can't play sports. You can't run. You can't work out. All of these things that I was being constantly excluded from. Plus my mom, when my dad died, my mom became a widow of 3 kids, and I was the youngest in the baby. And so it was always somebody did it for me because it was faster and easier. Like she had life to get on with, right? Like I don't fault her at all. Like my mom did the best she could from where she's at with what she had. And what it left for me was my older brothers and everybody, my cousins, everybody doing everything for me on top of being told what I couldn't do. When you become an adult and realize that those are your core beliefs, that you can't do things and that people aren't here to serve you. You're like, what do you mean? I can do all this stuff apparently, and nobody needs to do it on my own. It's a very challenging mindset to come out of.
Yeah.
And so what it's been a journey of learning like what I can do and constantly pushing myself I still have respect for my diagnosis. I'm not saying that just because I don't talk about it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right.
But I will say that the last time I went to the doctor to be assessed, I hadn't done what they had suggested in over 2 years. And when I went to the appointment, I didn't tell them this. And they told me, oh my gosh, you look amazing. You're in such great health. We're so glad that these prescription medications that we have you on have been working.
Man.
And I looked at him and I said, I haven't taken those meds in 2 years, and I've been lifting weights for a very long time now. And her face went white and she goes, you're not supposed to be doing any of that. And I said, why? Because you think I'm going to die? And,
oh my goodness.
And I could see it I was like, you guys gave me a lifetime protocol of preventative medicine. My blood pressure was always a solid 110 over 75, easy low blood pressure. Because they were scared for me because of what happened to my dad. They put me on 2 different medications that lowered my blood pressure. So now I'm looking at over 25 years of my blood pressure waking up on a daily basis being about 89 over 54. Like,
oh my gosh, that's really low. Yeah.
Like, I mean, so tired and so nauseous. And the number one side effects of both of those blood pressure medications were depression.
Yeah.
All for the stuff that I didn't need. So, and
for anybody who doesn't know out there, I'm just going to throw it out. Normal blood pressure is usually around 120 over 70. So what she said was pretty low.
And so it was, I'm also 6'1". So my hands are far away from my body or my heart. Like they're very far away from my core. Right. My feet are a very long way from my heart. And so now when you lower the blood pressure, the circulation issues are less.
Yeah.
And you put that on top of an inflammatory reaction to dairy, there was nothing for my body to work with to make myself feel better. And so Megan, I swear, saved my life. She taught me how to move my body because, again, growing at that kind of rapid rate, that when you're that young and you're not incorporating any sort of fine or gross motor skills, there's no coordination. And then you add drinking and pills to a 6'1" frame for somebody who's not coordinated, and the accidents, the twisted ankles, the broken arms, a literal drunk giraffe now is walking around when I became of age. And it sounds funny, and part of it is, but it was a lifetime of a lot of embarrassment, not feeling like I had any control over my body, not really wanting to be around people, and only being able to be intoxicated when I was around people because the insecurities were so deep. I mean, I was ridiculed in junior high and high school. My mom told me, she's like, don't take shit from anybody. And so I didn't. And so I started hitting people like when they would say things to me. I got to do a little bit of, because I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
And so I guess I kind of digressed a little bit, but moving back to eating healthy and moving, I was 6'1", my heaviest was 206. That was my drinking and eating dairy diet. My thinnest was 116 on a 6'1" frame, and that was the divorce diet.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And, so I've run the gamut of just shy of 100 pounds. I know what my body looks like, 100 pounds lighter, 100 pounds heavier.
Wow.
And now I ride healthy at a healthy 155. And that's where I found that it's comfortable. And so let me see if I can refocus a little bit. Sorry.
No, you're
Once
fine.
Megan got a hold of me and started helping me learn how to move, she encouraged me to be an entrepreneur, and no one had ever done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me, I was bawling at the YMCA, just crying all over the black mat. People were everywhere lifting, and I was just sobbing. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I thought I started from a place of vanity. I thought starting to look better would make things better. And I started to feel better in my body. I thought I started to look better, but I wasn't getting the boyfriend that I wanted. And I still hated working. And it was really the beginning of a journey of realizing what I thought I would. I started out fighting for my vanity and ended up earning my sanity through all of it. And because so Megan asked me one day, she goes, Lindsay, if you could do anything you wanted. I had come from school that day, and a second grader had stabbed me in the thigh with a pair of scissors because he had seen his mom getting beat the night before, and he was 7. He had big feelings. He didn't know what to do. And I was okay. Like, I still love that kid to this day. Like, that wasn't him. That wasn't his thing. But I couldn't keep enduring that as my career every day. I know some people can, but I couldn't. And so she asked me, she goes, if you could do anything in the world, no money, no, like, you have all the money, you have no fear, and there's nobody to say anything to you about what you want to do, what would you do? And I said, I would help people walk through fear. Because I had been so scared my whole life, just scared of everything. And I thought that was going to be through life coaching. I had one myself. I had a few mentors in my life that really gave me some perspective that was life-changing. And that was about 80% alignment. And it was a very ready, fire, aim. We got laid off. There was 85 of us. We were the highest paid reading teachers in the country. And all of us got laid off on the same day. Oh,
goodness. Wow.
They cut our funding. And they said, thank you for your service. Your next 6 weeks is your last 6 weeks. And basically I was offered, so I'm teaching special ed to second grade babies who really needed my help. And my replacement job was to come back and teach junior high PE. So
what?
It was things were aligning. I didn't want to be teaching. My teaching certificate was going to be expired. And then we got laid off, and I was like, I'm not supposed to do this anymore. And then it still gets worse. Like, it gets worse before it gets better, right? Like,
it usually does. I tell people that all the time. Like, if you're hitting rock bottom, that means your blessing is coming. Like, just hang in there.
Just when you think you've hit rock bottom, like, you don't realize that
you hit it again.
Go a little lower.
I can attest to that. Yes.
Like, I fell off the cliff and I've hit the bottom, and it's like, no, you just hit a ledge that's a little lower. And you're like,
oh my gosh, I can totally relate to that. Yes. And I know many people out there can, because it can get lower, but just hang in there still.
Yeah. I think you've hit the bottom when you're dead. Like, I just know as long as I'm alive, it can keep getting worse.
Yes.
But that also means the further it swings to the worse, the further it can swing to the better, right?
Yes.
So, I threw everything I had into that business. And I started looking for my answers in other people, paying people exorbitant amounts of money to help me make money. And I wasn't entirely clear on my purpose and my service. I've always had a servant's heart. But I just couldn't seem to, I feel like sometimes the only way to get clear is through experience. A lot of coaches were like, write down what you want. And I'm like,
Yep.
I
Been
want
there.
a bazillion things.
Yeah.
And so I'll be very vulnerable and say, I put everything into that business. And when I say everything, I say all of my savings, all of my retirement, all the equity in my house, into that business. And it didn't make it. It didn't make it. Because it wasn't in total alignment with me. So fast forward through, a couple of other stabs in the dark of like, really not stabs in the dark, but sifting and sorting of finding what I wanted. So
yeah.
I moved into the life insurance business because I'm a life insurance baby. My dad died when I was little. My mom put the three of us through college, and we never went without because of the life insurance money that my dad left us, and because of the way that my mom was able to grow that money. I was never taught what she knew about money. So I just threw it at people and saying, help me.
Been there.
Don't do that. If you're listening, don't do that.
Yes, don't do that, please.
And so I went into the life insurance business, and I was really pretty set that that's what I was going to do. I really I'm very much an introvert, I love spending time with people, but
I would never guess that about you.
Well, and again, so I heard I'll tell this very quick story to help you figure out where you're at I heard someone say, Simon Sinek, and he said, an introvert starts out the morning with 5 coins, and every social interaction they have, they take a coin out of their bank. And when their 5 coins are gone, they're done with the social interactions. Nobody's doing anything wrong. It's just that's not where they get their energy from.
Right.
The extrovert starts their day out with no coins, and every social interaction they get a coin. It energizes them. It fuels them. And when they get their social interactions, they're full. And when
they have to be good social interactions. That's the problem. But you gotta be careful with those interactions.
You gotta be discerning who your social interactions are with. So I felt that on a core level where going to the gym takes one of my coins. Social interactions take my coins. And if I have 5 meetings before 1 o'clock, when 1 o'clock hits, I'm done. I'm out. I get energy from being alone, putting my feet in the grass, having tea by myself. That's where, and that's okay. It's a beautiful way to learn who people are.
Right.
And so went through the life insurance thing. I realized it's something I'm very passionate about. It's something I believe in. I think everybody should have, but I realized I didn't like talking about it. And I realized on my off time. And I realized when I would have appointments with clients, I couldn't wait for them to be over so I could be done talking about life insurance. And I would take webinars with other life insurance agents, and I would listen to how passionate they were and how excited they were. And I'd be like,
that's not me.
How are you so excited about life insurance? I was like, and so I had someone ask me, I had a woman ask me a very pivotal question. And she said, I want to ask you a question, Lindsay. She goes, I'm not going to ask you, what are you passionate about? I'm not going to ask you what you love, because as human beings, our desire is ever growing and ever present. And I am passionate about so many things, and I love so many things that I would probably have 50 businesses if I could.
Yep.
And I went through this, I would find things and I'd be like, oh, maybe this is the thing. Maybe doing print on demand t-shirts for Malinois. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe doing an Etsy shop with all this creative artwork that, is the thing. And all these, is this the thing?
Yeah.
They'd fizzle out pretty quick, in 30 to 60 days, where I'm like, ugh.
Been there, done that.
And that's, I want to say, I think that that's part of the process. I think we're very critical about people who try a lot of different businesses, but that's how you find what you want to do. I think very rarely do people start one business, their first business, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, mine's had the same name, but my person has done many different things. So the business might have had the same name, but me, the person, has tried a lot of different things to get to where I am now.
Yeah. And I think that process is so important. Like for anybody that's listening, if you're new to entrepreneurship, like trying those different things, I
Yeah.
carried a lot of shame around the different businesses because, you know, of
Same
course, who
here.
do you reach out to first? Family and friends. And when you're on your fourth or fifth business, like you've worn
Yeah.
out your warm market and now you're the
Yeah.
flake in the family, right? Like it's like, oh, what is she trying to sell now? What is she trying to
Right.
do now? And I would
Right.
hear it, I would hear that tone. But what I thought about one day was like, well, yeah, they keep talking about what am I trying now? But I can't say that about them because they're not trying
Hmm.
anything. They're not
Exactly.
trying anything.
Exactly.
They're just submitting to what was scheduled for them by doing what they were told, which I'm not saying
And
that
then
there's any.
people complain, they complain about that's I definitely met up with a lot of that too, where it's like they complain about what's going on and what they deal with, but they're not willing to step out of that, that fear thing that you were talking about, where it's like, okay, yes, you're taking a risk, but maybe there's something amazing on the other side of it. Maybe there's not, but at least you took the risk, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. I heard someone say once, there's no failure. It's just gathering more information. And
data
I've
collection.
gathered a lot of information about what
Yes.
I don't want to do. I almost think it's more important to figure out what you don't want to do and what's not
Yes.
acceptable, because what's not acceptable to you will very rarely then become acceptable. So
Exactly.
she asked me, not what I was passionate about, not what I love, what did I want to do every day, not what would you do for free. She asked me what was I devoted to. And I sat and I thought about that. And I was like, you know what? The one thing through all of the ups and downs, the divorce to getting sober, I struggled with some mental instability for a little while. The
Who
one thing
doesn't?
that right. It was out of a lot of mental instability, but there's just a lot of healing to do.
Yes, yes.
Um, the one thing over the course of the years in my going on 9-year journey, the one thing that I'd always been devoted to was my health. From the minute I got sober, the
Yeah,
minute I put down the booze, the minute I put down the pills, and the minute I started to pick up different spiritual tools, different thought leaders, different religious practices and books that I could read, starting to build my life based on a foundation that was for me, that felt good to me,
right.
not the way I was raised, not what everybody else is doing. I'm not like anybody else.
None of us
And
are.
and that's the way it's supposed to
Yeah,
be. And so when I sat there, I was like, I was constantly looking after the whole dairy incident. I was constantly looking at things and constantly looking at labels and constantly analyzing how I was feeling after I was eating certain things, because not eating dairy gave me my life back in such a huge way.
yeah,
And then learning how to move my body, starting out with like the traditional workouts, traditional lifting, and it's progressed and grown into balance, mobility, and stability training for me. Like I've matured in my workout life, I've matured in my nutrition life.
right.
And if you look back, I just did a post, I think yesterday, about what I looked like when I first started to go to the gym at 37.
I saw that. Yeah.
And yes, I had long, huge blonde hair to my waist with big purple streaks, more makeup than a stripper could put on, with all the matchy clothes, the gym clothes. Like I would not go to the gym if I wasn't totally made up because I was so terrified. Part of
Oh,
me,
wow.
it was such a weird, insecure place to be in, because when I started working out for the first 3 months, I wouldn't go to the gym until Megan was like, Lindsay, you have to go to the gym. Like, you're so tall, your arms hit the roof in your house. Like you've got to go to the gym so you can do some standing shoulder presses without putting a hole in your
Yes.
leg. And when I'd go to the gym, there comes the gym intimidation.
Right.
I'm thinking that everybody's looking at me. Well, they probably were, because I was walking into the gym looking like a clown. And I love her. Like I love purple hair, makeup Lindsay. Like God bless her poor, insecure, terrified heart. But I still went. I did it anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Regardless of whether people thought I looked like a clown. There were definitely days I thought I looked like hot shit. Like I felt good and I felt strong. And it felt good to develop that inside of me with zero external validation.
Yeah.
Those feelings of like getting pretty to go to the gym, not to find a man, because I don't drink, I don't go out. Like I go to the grocery store and the gym and play with the dog. Like that's my life. And I
Yeah.
like it that way. So but I'm still a woman and I still like to get pretty and I still
Right.
like to feel nice. But now I get to go look pretty, but now I get to go to a place where they told me I could never go, where they told me I should never be,
Right.
where I'm doing all the things that they told me I couldn't, wouldn't, and shouldn't do. And that's been a process over the years to grow that kind of confidence where before I wouldn't go to the gym without makeup. I know, and I had a friend one time who was making fun of a girl to me on the phone. She's like, oh, I'm working out next to this girl and she's got on her purple matchy sports bra and pants and all of her damn makeup and she's ragging on this girl so bad. And
Oh,
I send
no.
her, as she's talking, I send her a screenshot of myself at the gym. I happened to wear purple that day. And I just said, was it me?
Oh my gosh.
And she didn't know, like we're on Zoom, right? So when she looks at it, I can see her whole face. And I said,
Oh man.
she goes, Lindsay, I'm so sorry. I said, no, you're not. I said, that's okay. I was like, women who look like me bother women who look like you for whatever reason. I said,
Right.
what you feel towards me in the way that I look at the gym, that's not mine.
Right.
I feel beautiful. And there's a time that I didn't used to come to the gym because I was afraid of a woman like you.
Right.
And so then it became this place of a little bit of shifting my perspective. And then I made it a point to compliment one person at the gym
I love
every
that.
day. And so then moving in, as that progressed, I got the weightlifting bug and the desire to compete. And so that's been a journey in itself. I've been trying to get to the stage for over 4 years now, and there's been surgeries and injuries that have prevented that. But I haven't gotten to the stage because it's not time for me yet. If it were supposed to happen any other way, it would have. And
Exactly.
I've found so much comfort in that. And now I'm in school to get my board certification for functional nutrition. I'm a certified personal trainer, certified health coach. And with functional nutrition, really that's where my passion lies, because people are walking around in these meat suits and they're so uncomfortable for so many different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And for me in my journey, I couldn't get to the mental piece because the physical piece felt so bad. Like food and eating and the way that I looked was taking up such a large part of my thought process to try to get to the part where I needed to heal. I had to start with the food first.
Mm-hmm.
And, learning that the majority of our emotions are stored in the gut. When we start and you're ingesting things like fluoride and refined sugar and glyphosate sprayed wheat and things like dairy and white refined sugar, none of those good feeling chemicals can be processed. And so we were in class one day and we're learning about how when we're embryos, how your brain tissue and your gut tissue, it all starts out as one cluster. And as you grow as a baby, it just stretches. It never divides. It never separates. It just stretches. One goes north, one goes south. And so it all kind of came together when I started to be able to go to the gym wearing shorts. I know that sounds dumb. I know I couldn't wear shorts to the gym. I was too afraid. I was too insecure. And when I started to wear shorts at the gym, I could see what my muscles were doing. Like when I would do quads, I'm like, I could see my muscles engaged. And with the back injuries that I have, a lot of times, like for my glutes and my quads, there's nerve damage. I can't feel them fire. So I have to see what they're doing. And I'll be pinching my legs. I'll pinch my own butt at the gym, not to try and but so I can activate that tissue so I can feel it. Wow. And now, I don't wear makeup to the gym. Sometimes I'm in shorts. I throw my stuff down. Like I'm there for me and for my goals. And if anybody there has any problem with that, just move somewhere else. But I can tell you right now, nobody cares.
I love that. Exactly. That last
Nobody
part,
cares.
what you just said, nobody cares. I've told people that so many times, and I think especially as women, and we all go through it. Like people don't believe me, but I had to go through that too, and I still do. Like if I go into a place where there's a bunch of power lifters or even bodybuilders, and hey, guess what? I've done bodybuilding, right? But it can be intimidating if they're bigger than you or but they've just been at it longer. So that's what I tell people. I'm like, I've just been doing it longer. I'm no different than you are, right? Like I'm still human. You're still human. And that's the thing. It's like we have to get past this. We're our own worst enemy.
Mhm.
We have to get past this. That's it. Once we get past this, and like you said, like I think that just needs to be that really needs to stand out a little bit because you said you still went. It didn't matter how intimidated you were. And guess what? Me too. I still went. Right? Like that's the difference. That's what makes us so different. We face that fear and we say, "Okay, I'm still going to go." Right? If that's what we truly feel like, that's what that's where we're meant to be. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We face that fear, we look at it in the eyes. It might take a little while because sometimes, it does. But we make that step. We make that step. We take that step. That is the key, is taking that first step.
Yeah,
So
do it
that's
anyway.
huge. Yeah, exactly.
Do it
Exactly.
anyway. And, and moving forward, it really has become, I go to the gym. I'm on a pretty solid schedule. I go 4 times a week for about 2 hours.
Hmm.
Um, I used to try and get there 6 days a week, and I was just so tired
Yeah,
all the
it's a
time.
lot.
And so I had to find that balance too, because I didn't, the pendulum swung the other way where I went from not moving at all to training 12 to 16 hours a week.
Yep.
And, as you get older, like if you're 20, like go for it. Like you can do it. Everybody's like, are you doing 2 a days? I used to do 2 a days. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me too. You crash
30
and
to
burn.
30 to
You crash
39
and
years
burn.
old. And
Yep.
really not like the return on investment ROIs are the ROI on 2 days is shit. Like I
Yeah,
don't
it's
recommend
not.
it.
It's not all the
It
time.
should
Unless
not be a
there's
thing.
balance, like I can still achieve it every now and then, but I'm not going all in like I used to. It'd be
Yeah.
like 2 days of going all in. Now it's like, oh, I didn't get to finish my workout this morning, or I'm gonna go walk the dog, or that's my
Yeah.
2 a day.
That's it. That's it. And then going to so moving from finding balance to I don't like it's become one of my non-negotiables. We have non-negotiables in functional
Yep.
nutrition where like if we're doing a functional nutrition program, there's 3 non-negotiables that just they're non-negotiable. And for me in
Yeah.
my daily life, not going to the gym unless my body is telling me that I need a day off, it's not a negotiable.
Same
We
here.
go to
Yep.
the gym. And that's where it switched from being about, hot girl summer, he'll like you if, ugh, to this is for my sanity.
Yes.
When I go to the gym, I especially, if I'm struggling in business or if I'm challenged with a relationship or if I'm riding some emotional roller coaster that entrepreneurship comes with, I take and I leave it all at the gym. So for me, there's crying at the gym. If I cry at the gym, I get a hat on and, when you're moving your body,
Right.
your hormones are going.
Yep.
Um, Sometimes I get frustrated because I can't feel certain things fire,
Yeah.
or I feel like I should be able to do something better, harder, stronger, faster, or longer. Or something's going on in my life outside the gym, and sometimes working out like just triggers something. And
Right.
so I've shed more than my fair share of tears at the gym, but that's for my sanity. If my
Yeah.
tears, I'm not standing in the middle of a room full of people just bawling, like making
Yeah.
everybody
Well, but
uncomfortable.
I think people need to hear that, you just, we all have stuff that we're dealing with. And I think people need to hear that because, people see what they want to see. And they never see the internal struggle that people are dealing with. They only see, the smiley face and, whatever. And so they think that they're the only ones that are going through it. And it's like, no, we're all going through it, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's huge. For the sake of time, man, I wish we could just keep going, but for the sake of time, we're gonna have
Oh,
to wrap this up.
yeah.
Um, what would be, and I'm gonna have you back on, so it's okay. We'll finish this up, but just to fast forward, tell everybody a little bit about what you're actually doing right now, your business, just in the next few minutes, and if you have any, just a few words of encouragement for anyone out there who might be in any of the scenarios that you've been in your life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm doing functional nutrition and personal training. I don't know that you can have one without the other. And I will say that if you have to pick one, I mean, I don't ever want to say you have to pick one. I don't ever want to say you have to pick one because I don't want to think that one is more important than the other.
Right.
I will say the gym is the easy part.
Yes. I say
The
that
gym
all the
is
time. Yes.
the gym is the easy part. The food is the tough part. And so in functional nutrition, what I'm aiming to do is to help people teach them and educate them on how to learn to eat for their own, what's called bio-individuality.
Mm.
Food is a chemical. All foods are chemicals. And I don't mean that they're chemically based, but strawberry is a chemical, peanuts is a chemical, and our bodies are labs. And so it's not about
I
eat
like
this
that.
for 8 weeks and feel better, or eat kale because it's healthy for you, or eat fermented foods because it's good for you. If you have a lot of allergies, fermented foods are going to be horrible for you.
Yeah.
And so I don't like giving people blanket advice on what they should and shouldn't be eating, because until I've sat down with you and we've talked about what are some of the issues that you're dealing with, what's
Right.
your gut like, what kind of inflammation are you dealing with? Like, let's talk about some of your chronic things that are going on. Functional nutrition, if you look at a human as a tree, allopathy or Western medicine treats the branches and the leaves. At functional nutrition, we go into the roots and the soil. So let's find out, why are you getting sick to begin with? Not just adjusting your diet, but let's
Yeah.
learn to eat not just intuitively, but to eat in tune for your body.
Mm.
I also teaching people how to eat for their body is my main passion, because I'm not on any prescription medications at all anymore.
That's
I
awesome.
take supplements and that's it.
That is awesome.
It's huge. It's so freeing to be released of the cycle of big pharma. And I'm not saying it has its place, right? Like, I'm not
Right.
telling anybody ditch your
Nah,
prescription
yeah.
medication
I get
at
it.
all.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, what if we could reduce our visits to the doctor and reduce some of the medications that we're on? And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm really, really focused on building stability and flexibility to keep mobility.
Yeah.
I have a lot of injuries and I have some medical things where I have to work out in a slower pace. I have to keep my heart rate lower. So I've learned to train my core first, to tighten that, and then to stay flexible and to build muscle. Because I live in
Yeah.
a town of old people. Old. I live in a retirement village in retirement town in Florida. And I also work at a doctor's office where I see people paying $75 3 times a week to find 30% relief from some pain, because they didn't take care of themselves when they were younger.
Right. Right.
And so it's not about looking good. It's not about what you weigh. It's about how you feel, and
Exactly.
how you feel in your body and how you feel in your head. So it's very much the sanity over vanity.
Yes.
And for anybody who's experiencing any kind of, I don't know, issues with their bodies, inflammation, struggles with food, not really sure how to get moving, find someone who you jive with. Like, find someone whose spirit speaks to you, find somebody they have what you want.
Right.
And ask them how they did it. Enlist support. Find someone who's into small, slow, sustainable changes. This
Yeah.
isn't about diets. This isn't about getting a butt in 8 weeks. This isn't about doing a keto diet for 30 days. That's all temporary.
Yeah.
So
There's no
really,
magic pill, you guys.
no, there's no one shot for anything. in functional nutrition, our professor, Andrea Nakayama, explains it like this. Well, it was a doctor out of the Cleveland Clinic talking about illnesses, and he calls it 36 holes in the roof. If you've got 36 holes in your roof and you come in and you plug one hole, that's not going to make a bit of difference. But if you can come in and start plugging 10, 12, 15, 20 of those holes, we can turn the dimmer switch down. Not saying that we can repair the whole roof like brand new.
Exactly.
But we can turn the dimmer switch on and turn down some of your symptoms and turn up the quality of your life. So get clear on what you're looking for. I was looking for relief. Like I was looking, and I was willing to do anything. I think we have to get to that place where the pain of the change, the pain of the pain becomes greater than the pain of the change. So then we just change. Because you got to pick your pain. It's going to hurt either way.
Yep. Tell people that all the time. Yep.
Yeah, it's going to hurt either way. So pick your hard and pick the one that's going to move you forward. I would say if you're looking at choosing anything and you're not sure whether it's what business to start, whether to hire a nutritionist or a personal trainer, whatever decision you're struggling with, just ask yourself not what is good as bad, what's right or wrong, but what is most beneficial for me right now. Just ask yourself, what is most beneficial for me? And you'll hear your heart tell you instantly.
Yep.
And sometimes it's what you want to hear and sometimes it's not, but listen to that gut and go with that.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good. Oh man. Yeah. I really wish we could just keep going, but we're going to cut it for today. But definitely I can foresee having you back on, and I'm really grateful that you were willing to come on here and share that, because there's a lot of people out there that need to hear, there's somebody else going through what they're going through or has gone through what they've gone through. And now, you're coming out on the other side of it, and we all need that hope, right? Like when we're going through it, we need that hope, and just know okay, there could be something on the other side, because unfortunately so many people give up before they get there. And,
and that's where you stay. Right.
That can be in the form of even giving up on life. Right. So I just really, I'm grateful that you came on here and shared that. And I can't wait to get this out to everyone and let everyone hear you and reach out to you and contact you. And, and I hope you definitely meet some new people out of this as well. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Lindsay, again for coming in here. Functional nutrition is definitely something that a lot of people need to know about. And I'm definitely grateful for you in my life as well.
Thank you so much again for having me.
No problem. All right, everyone. Again, this has been a great episode of Breaking Barriers Now. We are kicking off, and this is going to be it. So I'm just excited for what's to come, and I'm excited for all the stories that you guys get to listen to as it continues to play out. So thank you again for listening. Please share, subscribe to the YouTube channel, share this with all your friends and family, and let's help and let's save more lives. Together we can do more. All right, God bless.